To find out in a rush whether a dictionary is prescriptive or descriptive, you look up ain't and like. I learned this trick of horseback logomachy from reviews of the Merriam-Webster 3rd edition. And here is the rundown on ain't. The Merriam-Webster 1st edition says that it is colloquial or illiterate. The second says it is dialect or illiterate. And the third says that ain't is, though disapproved by many and more common in less educated speech, used orally by many cultivated speakers, especially in the phrase, ain't I? I submit that this nation is so uniformly populated by parvenus with the heebie-jeebies that the phrase, ain't I, is heard about as frequently as the mating cry of the heath hen. Random House says this about ain't. Ain't is so traditionally and widely regarded as a non-standard form that it should be shunned by all who prefer to avoid being considered illiterate. Ain't occurs occasionally in the informal speech of some educated users, especially in self-consciously sick or folksy or humorous contexts. Ain't it the truth? She ain't what she used to be. But it is completely unacceptable in formal writing and speech. Although the expression ain't I is perhaps defensible, and it is considered more logical than aren't I, and more euphonious than amped I, the well-advised person will avoid any use of ain't. How's that for advice to parvenus? My mother isn't mentioned, but what she taught me to say in place of ain't I, or aren't I, or amped I, was, am I not? Speed isn't everything, so I lose a microsecond here and there. The main thing is to be a graceful parvenu. As for the use of like, as though it were interchangeable with as, MW1 says, the use of like as a conjunction meaning as, do like I do, though occasionally found in good writers, is a provincialism and contrary to good usage. MW2 says that the same thing is freely used only in a literate speech and is now regarded as incorrect. MW3 issues no warnings whatsoever and flaunts models of current OK usage from the St. Petersburg, Florida Independent. Wore his clothes like he was, afraid of getting dirt on them. And Art Linkletter, impromptu programs where they ask questions much like I do on the air. MW3, incidentally, came out during the dying days of the Eisenhower administration when simply everybody was talking like Art Linkletter. Random House, in the catbird seat, since it gets to recite last, declares in 1966, the use of like in place of as is universally condemned by teachers and editors, notwithstanding its wide currency, especially in advertising slogans. Do as I say, not as I do, does not admit of like instead of as. In an occasional idiomatic phrase, it is somewhat less offensive when substituted for as if. He raced down the street like crazy. But this example is clearly colloquial and not likely to be found in any but the most informal written contexts. I find this excellent. It even tells who will hurt you if you make a mistake. And it withholds aid and comfort from those friends of cancer and money, those greedy enemies of the language who teach our children to say after school, Winston tastes good like a cigarette should. Random House is damned if it will set that slogan in type. As you rumple through this new dictionary looking for dirty words and schoolmarmisms tempered by worldliness, you will discover that biographies and major place names, and even the names of famous works of art, are integrated with the vocabulary. A Streetcar Named Desire, Ralph Ellison, Mona Lisa, Kisselesque. I worry about the biographies and the works of art, since they seem a mixed bag, possibly locked for all eternity in a matrix of type. Norman Mailer is there, for instance, but not William Styron, or James Jones, or Vance Bourgeois, or Edward Louis Wallant. And are we to be told throughout eternity this and no more about Alger Hiss? Born 1904, U.S. public official. And why is there no entry for Whittaker Chambers? And who promoted Perez? It is the biographical inclusions and exclusions, in fact, which make this dictionary an ideal gift for the paranoiac on everybody's Christmas list. He will find dark entertainments without end between pages 1 and 2059. Why are we informed about Joe Kennedy Sr. and Jack and Bobby, but not about Teddy or Jacqueline? What is somebody trying to tell us when T.S. Eliot is called a British poet and W.H. Auden is called an English poet? Maybe the distinction aims at accounting for Auden's American citizenship. And when Robert Welch Jr. is tagged as a retired U.S. candy manufacturer, is this meant to make him look silly? And why is the memory of John Dillinger perpetuated, while of Adolf Eichmann there is neither gibber nor squeak? Whoever decides to crash the unabridged dictionary game next, and it will probably be General Motors or Ford, they will winnow this work heartlessly for bloopers. There can't be many, since Random House has winnowed its noble predecessors. The big blooper, it seems to me, is not putting the biographies and works of art in an appendix, where they can be cheaply revised, or junked, or added to. Have I made it clear that this book is a beauty? You can't beat the contents, and you can't beat the price. Somebody will beat both, sooner or later, of course, because that is good old free enterprise, where the consumer benefits from battles between jolly green giants. And as I've said, one dictionary is as good as another for most people. Homo Americanus is going to go on speaking and writing the way he always has, no matter what dictionary he owns. Consider the citizen who was asked recently what he thought of President Johnson's use of the slang expression, "cool it," in a major speech. "It's fine with me," he replied. "Now's not the time for the President of the United States to worry about the King's English. After all, we're living in an informal age. Politicians don't go around in top hats anymore. There's no reason why the English language shouldn't wear sports clothes, too. I don't say the President should speak like an illiterate, but cool it is folksy, and the chief executive should be allowed to sound human. You can't be too corny for the American people. All the decent sentiments in life are corny. But linguistically speaking, Disraeli is Dullsville." These words, by the way, came from the larynx of Bennett Cerf, publisher of the Random House Dictionary of the English Language. Moral: everybody associated with a new dictionary ain't necessarily a new Samuel Johnson.